Hey everybody, Michael Snyder here, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is September 14th, and right now we're looking at the mid-level water vapor loop. We got BC, Washington, Oregon. Check out the ridge building up over the Pacific Northwest. Nice clockwise rotation here, sinking air, ridge generally associated with fair or good weather. And you can see the troughing over here. You can have a counterclockwise rotation, generally more convergence, clouds, colder air aloft, precipitation associated with troughs. And we're going to warm up here pretty nicely through this weekend and potentially again, even on through next week here. So enjoy these days because, as you know, the days are getting shorter here. We're going to be moving into the fall and winter months. Things are going to cool down and you'll be yearning for these nice sunshine days. So get out there and enjoy that while it lasts. And we'll take a look at the extended forecast and fantasy forecast here at the moment. Looks like some troughs are going to try to make their way through here as we go through September. Looking at SeaTac yesterday, 74 degrees, 1 degree above average, no precipitation, but we did ring that 507-inch out of that weak system the day prior there. And beggars can't be choosers. Got to take what kind of precipitation we can get this time of year. Been pretty dry across the region. Taking a look here at this Tempest weather station. I've been testing it versus the Davis, and the wind has been doing pretty good. I set up pretty detailed tests on my deck here, and the ultrasonic anemometer was holding up pretty well with the Davis, a much more expensive equipment, and it's got a nice UV sensor there, solar radiation. You can see the temperature, and right now, 62.8 versus the Davis showing 63.1. You can see the solar radiation somewhere in the general vicinity. Not doing bad. The barometer's been pretty good as well. So if you want to save 10% off that very affordable home weather station, click on that link down below. A peek into next week. Nice graphic here from the National Weather Service Spokane, kind of showing the potential trajectory of this trough that's coming up here as we go on in through Tuesday and Thursday next week. You can see generally what this would mean. They call it about pink, relatively warm days, coldest nights, mountain rain, and then you can see the blue that digs further down across the west coast here, cloudy with widespread precipitation, cold daytime temperatures, relatively warm nights here. So early season trough trying to move down across the area. We'll take a look at that here in a moment in the weather models. You can see the warming trend here. Look at Bend, Ellensburg, Hermiston, Pasco, Pendleton. You guys get the picture here. We're going to warm up and stay warm through Sunday, but then you see that next trough try to arrive as we go through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and temperatures really start to decline here, depending again on the trajectory of that next trough. This is looking at the GFS. This is the ensemble mean. So we're averaging all 30 ensemble runs of the GFS. There's that ridge. So we start to try to swing some troughing down here. And this is the one that's been having a little bit of interesting difficulty with. It's previous runs were showing this digging out a little bit further to the west, but you can see the ensemble mean generally setting it up over here, kind of Idaho, Montana here. And then we build another ridge as we go through the following week here. You scroll out far enough and you can kind of see the troughing there really develop, kind of a decent signal here in the European, the GFS. Excuse me, as we go towards the end of September here. So we'll be watching that. Plenty of time to look at that. We're talking about, we're still looking at, 8+ days out right now. So nothing to get too concerned about, but just fantasy fun at this point. GFS, this is the actual deterministic run here. The conditions, we best understand them. You can see the ridge kind of getting kicked out of here as we go through later this week and early next week. A couple troughs swinging by there, and then you can see the next ridge as this trough drops down over the Intermountain West here, a pretty substantial ridge here across some of the Northeast Pacific, and then that ridge eventually kicks out. So troughing develops over the Pacific here, but again, we're looking way far off into Fantasyland, but this troughing here has been showing up in both the European and the GFS run, but this is, you're looking at a 10+ day time frame here, purely fantasy, just a novelty. This is looking at the European ensemble mean, all 50 ensemble members of the European. There goes that ridge. We try to swing a couple weak troughs through here, dig down across the Intermountain West here, rebuild that ridge, warm us back up again towards the end of next week, and then some of this troughing starts to show up as we go towards later September. So that's where we're at as of right now. And of course, we'll watch this as we go day by day. Here's looking at a little bit closer look. There's BC, Washington, Oregon. Yesterday afternoon's European ensemble control. Basically the same as the deterministic. Now the resolution has changed in that most recent update from the European model. You can see the system trying to swing through as we go through Sunday into Monday. Kind of a weak system swings by, then maybe a little bit more robust system there. As this trough digs down, you can see the spin in the atmosphere across some of the Mountain West there. And then we may start to warm back up again a bit next week. But again, we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves right now. with looking at that. This is the control from last night's run. So this is 06Z, and this is total precipitation in inches. And there goes the system as we go through Monday morning. You can see some precipitation across the higher terrain. Of course, better chances the further north you go, north of Vancouver Island. And then you can see that next trough just at the very end of last night's European run start to sag across the area here as well. So that's what we're going to be watching over the next few days and try to get better agreement on what we can expect from that trough as we go through next week. Now check out the GFS. Excuse me, frog in my throat today. GFS wants to show this very warm temperatures here as we go through Friday, Saturday. Pretty good model agreement there, high confidence, and then the trough swings through, and then we start to warm back up again here, and then who knows what's going to happen after that, but probably some troughing will eventually make its way in there. I wouldn't expect these temperatures to last for too long, but you can see September 21st and 22nd there, maybe even getting back up into the 80s again towards September 22nd. Portland, something similar here, warm temperatures incoming as we go through Saturday, trough moves through, and then maybe that ridge bouncing back at least for a time through the end of next week. This is Spokane, something similar. You can see the trough and then the bounce back a bit here. And the European showing it as well. You can see the temperatures coming up as we go through Friday, Saturday, probably headed towards some of the low 80s for SeaTac here in some of the Puget Sound, Western Washington. And of course, warmer for the Willamette Valley, places off east. And you can see, again, the bounce back in temperatures after that trough as we go through midweek coming up. Now, looking at the GFS, this is 6-hour 2-meter max temperature. This would be for today. Some nice warm temperatures out there. Check out the Willamette Valley, some of the southern portions up towards 90 degrees. Very nice. Some late summery conditions here across the region. And this would be for tomorrow. Look at this. Up into the mid and maybe upper 80s for portions of Western Washington, Willamette Valley, all the way up towards Portland, maybe 90 degrees here. And here we go with Saturday, another very warm day across the region, but you'll notice that cool down try to start coming in here as we go through Sunday. And by Monday, we're really cooling things down here, as by that time we're going to have some onshore flow and the system's moving by to the north. So that's something we'll definitely be watching closely over the next few days. This is Tuesday afternoon here. You can see the seasonable temperatures as we go. And then we start to bounce back again. This will be next Thursday. Look at this, some 90s returning again to the Willamette Valley. And next Friday, look at that, all the way up through Seattle, some mid-80s coming up there. But again, take that with a grain of salt. We're looking a little far out at this point. Fantasy windstorm hunt. So ensemble member number 25, I think it is, shows a 45-mile-per-hour gust for Seattle. So let's go ahead and just check that one out. You can see a smattering of a few other higher gusts kind of intermixed in here as we go through the end of September, but just purely a fantasy forecast now, but it has been showing up for a few runs. Now, taking a look here, of course, you can see Washington, BC, Vancouver Island. There's Oregon. There goes that system. A little bit of a tightly wound low here. Would be a nice pressure rise on the south side of that. It's moved up the Puget Sound there. So something interesting way off into fantasy land. As you can see, September 25th, you're talking about 10 days out. This is McCord. Check it out on that ensemble run, 50 miles per hour there. So just thought I'd show that one. Purely fantasy at this point. 6 to 10 day temperature outlook here. And this goes through September 23rd. Look at the West Coast. The troughing hanging around and below average signal as we go. 6 to 10 day with a little bit of a below average signal here. But look at 8 to 14, again, with below average conditions across the West Coast. And that trough showing up towards the end of September here. They're picking up on it a little bit here on the National Weather Service. So interesting stuff there. Anyway, yeah, ridge. And then we're going to cool down through the early portion of next week and maybe even bounce back again the following week. And we'll just continue to watch these systems. And we'll get a little bit better agreement, of course, as we go closer and closer. We'll watch that one closely as we go through next week and see just what track it's going to take and what the impacts will be just besides a general cool down across the area. So anyway, so this fantasy forecast, it's just trying to make weather a little bit entertaining. You look at the future a little bit, and it's just kind of fun to watch to see what kind of storms you might get as we transition on in through the summer months into the fall months here. Just try to make a little bit of entertainment here. Admittedly, things are a little bit slow right now. I mean, I guess you can get a little bit hyped up about the warm temperatures coming up here, but yeah, fantasy weather is just fantasy. It's not expected to happen. Sometimes there is some truth to it, but obviously you don't want to go out and make plans based on a forecast that's 10 days out. So anyway, the El Nino data is in. I'll be working on that today. I'll probably have it out in the next 2 days. I kind of went down a rabbit hole a little bit, and I've been adding some new correlations here across the West Coast. So I have not yet decided how much of that I'm going to include in the video. I'll go ahead and work on that today, and hopefully I'll have that out in the next couple of days here. But the El Nino data is out here, and it's released, I think, on the second Thursday of each month. So yeah, I jumped ahead a little bit. I thought they would have it on the 10th or 11th, but I was wrong there. So anyway, I hope you guys are liking these videos. I'll do my regular briefing tomorrow, get that El Nino video out here as well in the next day or two, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.